All right, well, this set of notes is going to try to give you a little bit of an overview of three kingdoms. We're going to start with the Protista kingdom first, and it's made up of basically three groups. First, you have the algae. Now, algae are things like diatoms, rhodophyta, phaeophyta. Rhodophyta means red algae, phaeophyta brown algae. These are the things that basically have plant-like characteristics. They carry out some form of photosynthesis. Okay? There's a unique group called the euglenoids that basically are a little bit of plant, a little bit of animal, because they move around like an animal cell, but they carry out photosynthesis. They also have an eye spot like an animal cell, so we've put them in their own group. And then you have the protozoans. Now, the protozoans are the ones that have the animal characteristics. These are things you may have seen in middle school, like the paramecium, the amoeba. Okay, some of these are really interesting parasites, trypanosomes. Okay, transferred by the tsetse fly, plasmodium by the mosquito for malaria. Okay, toxoplasma, again, another one that can infect humans. Again, these guys can often be pretty nasty, okay? And then we get to the last one. And the last one is the group of slime molds. Now, we really didn't know where to place these, but we finally decided they belonged in this kind of like catch-all group or kingdom, the Protista kingdom. And these are the guys that have fungus-like characteristics. And the slime molds, play a big role in helping to recycle organic material. Some can be incredibly large under the ground where you can't see them, but they are actually pretty neat. Now I'm going to take a pause so you can check out a couple of videos on these different groups. Now the next kingdom is the kingdom fungi. Now these guys they used to be placed in this plant kingdom because they didn't move around. They're sessile is the word that's used. Now, basically, these guys they do two things. They're either parasites, which means they eat off living tissue. Good example, think of athlete's foot. It lives off that skin that's growing on your foot, on your feet. Others are saprophytes, and these are organisms that live off the dead organic matter that's out there. Now, again, fungi can take lots of different shapes and sizes. You've got your puffballs, your morels. Okay, you've got your Amanita muscaria, which is the one from Alice in Wonderland. Probably the most well-known, well-documented one, and probably one we take for granted the most in some ways, but value the most as well, is yeast. And it's used to make, bread, wine, beer. And again, there's so many different varieties of yeast. But again, another one that we don't really think about is penicillin. Or should I say the penicillium mold. It's it's used to make not only cheeses, but also used to make antibiotics. So again, you've got this important group, okay, that makes up lots of different varieties. Again, I'm going to take a pause so you can check out some videos that I put together or collected for you about them. Now the last group is one I know you're all familiar with, the plant kingdom. Now again, plants, they're all put in this group because they have certain traits. One, they carry out photosynthesis. Two, they have cell walls that are made of a compound called cellulose. They're sessile. They don't move around. They reproduce sexually, okay, in a variety of different ways, producing a variety of offspring. And they were also multicellular with specialized cells. Now, when we talk about the plant kingdom, again, you can almost like look at these different plants and think about the evolution of them. I mean, you've got mosses and liverworts and hornworts. They all are small They don't really have a vascular system like we think of a series of tubes to carry fluids. So they're all found in moist environments where they can just soak up the moisture out of the ground. That's why you see mosses near ponds in damp areas. Okay, the liverworts, sounds like a funky name, but they get their name because their leaf shape is like that of a liver. And the hornwort, again, each one of these little horns that you see has one large chloroplast. These guys are probably not far removed from the algae. Now, if we move along evolution-wise, we get to the club mosses. And these guys actually at one point used to grow really tall back in the age of the dinosaurs. Some as big as 30 meters, 90 feet tall. And so, they're still around in many different ways. Not quite the same variety as millions. Anyway, pardon my, I'm still learning how to do this video making, so let me continue. Horsetails. These guys are interesting because they actually have silica, the stuff that is used in sand. And these guys used to be used for cleaning utensils because of their rough nature. Again, ferns, these are the first ones that have true leaves. And so again, ferns advance because they actually developed a vascular system. And so these are kind of like your real primitive plants that began to grow up, support themselves off the surface of the earth. And, but what's important to understand is they still do not produce seeds in any way, shape, or form. One interesting group of plants that has only one species left is the ginkgo biloba. And again, the ginkgo biloba is that group, okay? There's only one species left, but you hear about ginkgo because it's got some nutritional value. One thing interesting about it is ginkgo plants come in male and female parts. Another group that's important or used to be important, the cycads. You see these in the tropics, okay? Now these guys are the first group of plants that began to produce what we call cones, okay? And again, they were abundant during the age of the dinosaurs, much like those club mosses. And so you see these, okay, again, as a remnant from an older time. And we'll take a pause for just a moment. All right, as I wind this down, I'm going to talk for a minute just about the gymnosperms. These guys are the ones with the needle-like leaves. They basically are designed to survive in not so friendly environments, sandy soil, cold environment. The needle-like leaves prevent them from losing too much moisture by keeping that surface area to volume ratio low. You're familiar with them as your pine tree, your Christmas tree, hemlocks, spruces, redwoods, which leaves the last group, the anthophyta or the flowering plants. Now when we talk about the flowering plants, there's two groups that you need to understand. Monocots versus dicots. And we'll come back to these later this year at various times. Monocots, their leaf veins run parallel, right along the leaf in the same direction, whereas dicots, they're branching. The leaf veins are branching. In the monocots, the parts of the flower come in multiples of 3. In the dicot, they come in multiples of 4 or 5. All right? In a monocot, the vascular system is not organized. Usually you see a green stem, okay? Whereas it's a woody stem in a dicot, and so there'll be a ring. That's the rings you're familiar with when you were to cut down, say, a tree, a dicot. In a monocot, you have a net-like root. And it's fibrous. It spreads out everywhere. There's not one main root like a dicot. We call that a taproot. And so it has one large, deep digging root with some roots maybe coming off of it. And then finally what gives them their name is in a monocot you have what's called one cotyledon or one embryonic leaf that will pop up out of the seed, whereas in a dicot you get 2 cotyledons or 2 of those embryonic leaves coming out of the seed. And so that gives you kind of an overview of this most complex group. And again, I've put in a few videos for you to enjoy, so take a moment and watch those.